Let's see.
It's almost looking like the same trade from I took in Asia, except on NQ.
Let's see.
So we still have looks better on 1 hour. 1 hour LR built up here on NASDAQ still. That has already been a liquidity target on ES. So they have swept all of these. And now it is bounced on a 1 hour fair value gap that was untapped. And then this is basically the low of Wednesday, open Thursday here. This would be the low yesterday. But I would consider this to be major sell side liquidity. It is a 4 hour swing point. We have inverse this, and now we are recapping it. Um, no, no bearish 4 hour on ES, but no bearish 4 hour on ES, but we do have a new bearish 4 hour on NQ. We have this that was not tapped into in Asia. So if we look at our 1 hour dealing range, it would be here to here. So our equilibrium here is overlapping this 1 hour. Our 4 hour open is here. It has opened higher on both indices. So actually, I take that back. They actually both had this 1 hour as well. It's in discount of the range. I don't like it for entry as much, but so the 4 hour has opened and essentially is just wicking into the very first 1 hour right now. That would be, and then we also have this. Man, we got some serious 1 hour stacked. Not a huge fan of that for shorts. Or I guess for longs either. I definitely don't want to long through all those things. So we got until NASDAQ gets to this 1 hour that ES is kind of V shaping in right now. We have like 1,000 ticks. So we're pretty far from that thing. So much closer to previous day low on the ES than NASDAQ, which is not surprising. I don't know. This to me just still just catches my eye. And I already seen ES want to drive into it. NASDAQ's more bullish overall. Maybe it's just taking a little longer to get there, which is fine. We could look at something like this where like we take shorts on ES over here and we just let it run towards previous day low. But when NASDAQ starts sweeping all of this, we get out or whichever one hits first. What you don't want to assume when one is kind of outrunning the other, whether it's up or down, you don't want to assume that they're going to go to the same draw on liquidity. So just because ES is going to hit previous day low doesn't guarantee NASDAQ is because it's much higher. So the way that I start looking at it in that situation is like, okay, where's my next draw on liquidity for ES? I mean, honestly, it's here, but I don't even like this that much because it's not even a swing. I like this better, but that's kind of optimistic. So that makes me have less of an actual target on ES. I feel like the better target is the LR lows here on NQ, but I would much rather be short on ES because it's weaker. So we could probably short here and just let it burn lower. And then as NASDAQ hits these, we just use those as our take profit or take profits. So that's my thought looking at it right now coming out of Asia. So in Asia session, we took shorts down into these on these low resistance liquidity um, points here on ES. Why is low resistance liquidity a good liquidity target? Is because, well, what is low resistance liquidity or what am I deeming that? Some people call it trendline liquidity. Um, Essentially, you're making lows in the market and you're not having any liquidity sweeps. Like they're just kind of stacking on top of each other like a staircase, making a trend line essentially. If you trade liquidity and understand it, you should very easily understand why a bunch of stacked lows sitting on top of each other uh, is not going to hold forever in this market, right? It's going to seek those out because assuming as this trend line's forming, what are people even it is on a 1 hour too. This is not like a 5 minute trend line. So you can only imagine how many orders in here to me look like this, right? So we are getting a good push up. I would like, so we have our 1 hour dealing range from this up close candle to this low. Here's our equilibrium. So all my eyes right now are on NASDAQ being the stronger index right now, since I'm trying to more than likely go short. and I want to see how it handles itself in this untapped hourly fair value gap that is overlapping equilibrium. Equilibrium is no different than a fair value gap. It is just a continuation confluence. It's one and the same. So, with that said, if you have a, I'm more speaking on high time frame. If you have a high time frame, but it's fractal, so I mean you can apply it elsewhere. Just doesn't hold the same amount of weight, just like anything else. But if I have a untapped fair value gap on the high time frame overlapping my equilibrium, if I see candles respecting it, closing under 50% of the fair value gap, with consequent encroachment, um, and not closing above equilibrium, right? That's basically giving me two clues for the price of one, that this POI right here could potentially be the top, right? What are we trying to do? Here's our H4 open here. We want to assume if we have a bearish closing 4 hour, we're going to open higher. So I want the wick. Where's the wick going to stop? Right? Because that's where I want to try to start getting involved on the lower time frame. Well, to me, this is a place that looks very prime to be that. So looking for a wick into here like this, and then it flip over and then give us some kind of bearish closing handle like that. That will allow us to one, be on the right side of the move for our trade, but it also is showing me that we're not doji candling, we're not sitting in one spot, we're manipulating, taking orders, which is showing me, like, look at this candle. That looks great to me. Boom. I would like to see even a little more explosiveness since this 4 hour open, right? And that's showing me the liquidations are happening. And then once I start seeing on the lower time frame, we're turning over and we start to flip the 4 hour again back, or flip it bearish. That to me is showing me that my timing is also correct, not just my direction. And more than likely, this 4 hour candle is going to deliver to these. If my 4 hour candle isn't forming like I want it to, then I know that either I'm wrong on my target, I'm wrong on my direction, or the the volume in the market is not there. Got a really good, I took it on MES. It's right here. This is our Asia session trade, which was towards the low resistance liquidity on ES. So kind of just carrying over that idea to this. So that was off the 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time 4 hour candle. We would just be carrying that same concept onto the 2 a.m. candle. And I'm assuming that New York will be kind of dead volume tomorrow. So I'm looking to catch this 4 hour candle and probably call it a week. I don't know about you guys, but That's my plan. And on the high time frame, on ES, we've made a new lower low on the 4 hour. Haven't quite done that on NQ, but we definitely have on the 1 hour. So what that is telling me is the market is it's already turned over on in these higher time frames. So usually, not always, but usually I won't have to have as long of a waiting period to get involved. Is waiting on it to where that 1 hour, 4 hour starts showing the direction of your trade sometimes can, or to your idea, can take some patience. We'll go ahead and mark out our 1 hour dealing range over here on ES as well. As you guys, okay. It was saying that I was having problems. Um, so as you guys watch me trade more, you will see me like 90% of the time. And usually when I don't, it's just because I didn't think to do it. I'm gonna put I'm gonna put I'm gonna mark equilibrium on any range that I'm looking at, no matter the time frame. I want to know where it is on the 4 hour, the 1 hour, the 15. And then even when I'm getting down, 1, 2, 3 minute, like on towards my entry, I will still do it most of the time. But I see if I'm looking for an inversion, well, it also helps me know that I'm right when I get the inversion and I start closing below equilibrium. It's showing me that the fair value gap's failing, equilibrium's failing, like the trend is changing. Because sometimes where your fair value gap is positioned, you can inverse some fair value gap and then equilibrium still hold. Probably because you have a different fair value gap on a different time frame somewhere that's, doing it, but it's just like a fast way to get to like double check yourself. And to me, it helps me pinpoint which points of interest are really the probably more than likely are going to be used and which ones are key. So like on this leg, for me personally, this thing going IFEG means absolutely nothing to me. This one going IFEG would mean everything to me. If this goes IFEG, then I believe the best trade is probably this, solely because it's sitting on the, yes, it's a 1 hour fair value gap, but it's also would be getting above equilibrium, holding, inversing the fair, it would give me added context to that. So right now we've wicked into that second H1 on NASDAQ, still short of that on ES, way short of equilibrium on ES. So this could just be ES being the weaker index still, which is fine. Here's our 4 hour on both of them. 4 hour opening price. If we're going to be right about NASDAQ hitting these lows, make trading as simple as you can. What does my 4 hour candle from 2 to 6 a.m. have to look like for me to hit these lows? Right? Okay. Starts here. Well, I would need some kind of bearish candle, maybe something like this. Dang, that's a terrible drawing. Maybe something like this. All right. Well, where is this wick going to go? It's not going to not have a wick. I mean, that's probably one out of 100 candles or something are going to have no wick on it. So where's the wick going to go? I would like it to form the wick first before, it catches extension. It's not always the case, but you may get, when these 4 hours open, you may get a little bit of chop. Some people will call that AMD. They'll say 4 hour PO3 or Power 3 or 4 hour AMD, where you're saying it's accumulating, it manipulates, and then distributes. And that is just, and what that turns into essentially being is a 4 hour candle that looks like this, right? That's not wrong, but for me at least, my problem with that is the accumulation is not really consistent from one to the other. Like sometimes you can sit here and accumulate for an hour of a 4 hour candle. Sometimes you can only see accumulation on the 1 minute for maybe 5 minutes and then it's going up. Sometimes it may even accumulate at the end of the last 4 hour candle. It just adds this like kind of, for me at least, this kind of it kind of discretionary kind of thinking that I don't really like. So for me, I try to keep it clean and simple. I want it to open the opposite direction than I want it to go. It's okay if it chops around a little bit at first. I don't really care. And I don't want to see it just like grind. What I mean by grind is just like wiggle its way up there, lower, high, lower, or higher, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low. I don't want it to, I want something that's impulsive where, where I can see the market is wanting to move. It's getting people out of the market to go where it's wanting to go. And if I see that in that direction, on top of using ICT concepts and liquidity and that, just that, I use the candle formation to time it. And for me, that is like the uh, missing puzzle piece to a lot of people, regardless if they, support and resistance or ICT or whatever. It's, as people trade, they get pretty good at knowing where the market wants to go, or get pretty good at being able to see what direction is winning that day or more than likely going to win that session. The problem is like, how do I time getting in and not have a 100-point stop loss to be able to make sure that I don't get stopped out before it delivers in the direction that I'm aiming towards the targets that I believe it's going to hit. I literally stayed in that phase just like that for probably a year and a half, and it was brutal because like I knew all the stuff. I knew all the ideas and the where to aim and what was likely to happen. Like I knew all that, but I just my timing was um, the problem. And on my losing days, probably eight or nine times out of 10 when I would lose, it wasn't because my direction was wrong. It wasn't because what I thought the market was going towards was wrong. I mean, of course I had those days, but most of the time it would hit my stop. And then at some point in that same session, my target would get hit eventually. So if I position myself off the 4 hour candle, I buy the wick of the 4 hour candle, then, you know, I'm I'm basically there to ride it as a expressway to my target. And base how it starts and the impulsivity you see from it when it starts, you can um, kind of double check your direction, but also you can double check the volume in the market. Is this thing ready to deliver to these targets, or is it just going to sit here and chop? Well, if it doesn't impulsively move from the open into some key area you have marked, then it's probably not ready to run. This thing's opened up immediately, manipulating into untapped hourly fair value gap. I mean, ES has already hit the draws on liquidity that we want for NASDAQ to hit now. We're going with the 1 hour trend and the 4 hour trend on ES. The 4 hour trend on NQ is not quite bearish yet. Let me get under this swing low right here. I do also want to remember that we did open this 4 hour way up here, but ES doesn't have it. So when one has a fair, like a point of interest and the other one doesn't, I don't hold, I mean, it still holds weight, but I'm less likely to utilize it as entry, like in my framework. They have all three of these 1 hours in common. The same candle that made this on ES made this on NQ, the same one that made this, and so on. So that looks a lot better to me to use. Check what this says right here. Mhm. Yeah, I got me a Starbucks double shot. I had to get some Get some energy. So we got about 13 minutes on this hourly close. So pretty normal for around that first hour of the 4 hour to run opposite in the opposite direction. Uh, so far to me this looks good. This looks impulsive. It's moving. It's in the direction I want it to be. So we'll see what we get here. I wonder how these 15-minute. I don't know why, but the 15 to me is just like, I don't know. I love that time. I think if I could only trade one time the rest like forever, I think that's what I would trade. I don't know, maybe the 1 hour. I sure like the 15. You know how hard trading would be if you could only look at one time frame? So the question I need to figure out is should I trade on the same account that I just traded in Asia? Very, very bullish 1 hour candle. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that the market's gonna move this morning. I mean, as long as it's printing candles like that, then I think we're good on volume. But I think New York AM is gonna be potentially slow unless we get some news or whatever, which I wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past old Pres Trump. You never know what he's gonna do. 9 minutes. Let's see. Big impulsivity there to close the hour. I would like, um, I know we can't always have what we want in this game, but if we could close below equilibrium, close below 50% of this fair value gap, consequent encroachment, but also get a tap on this one over here, that would be great. All right, getting the tap there that we want. Looking good. Now we have last 5 minutes. Maybe we can start getting it to pull back just a touch from here. Again, I know I'm asking a lot, but maybe it will give it to me. One thing I think may drive us higher is if it wants to fill this. I'm gonna mark this on my chart. Yeah. So that H4 and this H1 up here is that are actually overlapping. So we'll watch that. Yep. Likely sweep the daily high. If we inverse the 1 hour, then most likely sweep the daily high. Yeah, I think so. Yep, I think so. Because for me at least, because the 4 hour, not this big one, but this one here, because this 4 hour is not over here on ES, I'm less worried about it, especially if I was trying to long. I think if we, yeah, I think if we, because we have our equilibrium here and the 1 hour, I think if we did get this, then 100% the draw on liquidity becomes previous day high. Yep. The only reason all right, let me quiz you, Catherine. You ready for your quiz? Let me know when you're ready for your quiz. I'm ready. Why do I not like that? Not even worrying about target, but just off the 4 hour. Why do I not like if I get both of them on the screen where you can see it? They're just off the 4 hour. Why do I not like this draw up here as much as I like these down here? Not really based on what the torque, like, oh, this is previous day high versus low low resistance liquidity, like not that. Just like why do I like lower more than high? Why do I like lower more than higher? Because then if you didn't take it yet, yeah, that, but yes, but look at the 4 hour. Look at this. He literally got like one tick of a wick. I'm always extremely hesitant. Now I'm not now what I will say is it's normal for a high time frame candle to not have a wick if your lap if you're but remember this though, Catherine, like and because I've learned this because I've missed trades like this waiting for that. Say like let me find an example. Like right here, this is a great example. Look on the ES chart right in here. So you had this swing low on the 4 hour right here, right? And you push down lower. This 4 hour, it already swept the swing low, right? So this next one not having a wick because it's already swept, the last one already swept something, and then you've already V-shaped off in the on the 4 hour time frame. That to me is can definitely happen. Now, we went short. This is when you were trading with me the other morning because we didn't tap this. And I said, I think honestly, I thought this should do something like that and tap into the gap for us to go higher. But anytime if the last candle does some like serious manipulation and it has some like nasty wick on it that's swept, like say we had something like this on ES on the last candle and it swept previous day low or like a big target like that, and then it bought its way all the way back up, even though it's a bearish candle, it closed with a big bullish push. Then having a 4 hour start and not have much manipulation on it is okay. So I'll take that into account. Like, hey, it's already manipulated. Does that make sense? So it's not likely to do some drastic manipulation again. And, who knows? We may get that here because we did take out a bunch of stuff on ES through here. And we do have that wick that, has already swept all that out. So it's definitely possible. But I like it less than opening, big push up, and then the candle turning over. Like if you see a 4 hour like this, look at this thing. See this candle? You get a monster wick like that that's been bought up, swept a low, then and you had something real you were confident in up here or something. I don't think it'd be bad to buy, even though this obviously didn't work. I'm just using it as an example. Like when you have a big wick on it, the next one may not have a bunch of manipulation in it. But but something like that, unless it's sweeping like a really big crucial level, um, and I have something good to aim at higher, I will generally rate the trade setup a little lower in my head. All right, so fresh 4 hour candle. We did pop through equilibrium and we did close above consequent encroachment there. So to me, this is seeming like it's wanting to drive towards this. And another thing to note is we were 32 points away from sweeping these lows for the first one on NQ. So it got pretty freaking close. I mean, 30 points on NQ is nothing. I think this, um, I think this candle that we're on here is going to tell the story of the session now. I think I always try to look for that as like, what is that one candle that's going to fill in enough of the clues to tell you what it's going to be, kind of. I think if this, like you were saying, I think if this doesn't inverse, I think we could look for something like this to the unfilled 4 hour, and then you could even hold your runner. You could just turn off, go break even on it, and then hold some runners and see if you get previous day high. The other thing I don't really like as much about it holding here is NASDAQ did technically sweep this low. Well, never mind. It's just not really bouncing off of anything. Like over here, this is bouncing off a 1 hour fair value gap that was untapped. So this turning back into an uptrend potentially makes more sense to me. But NASDAQ kind of is bouncing out of nowhere, no man's land. But it's sure bullish right now. First 10 minutes of this hourly candle. Top of it, London open and London will sell off. Yeah. So are you familiar with the session profiles at all? Not familiar. So here, I'll type it in the chat so you can go and like do your homework on it. Um, you just Google like or YouTube ICT ICT session profiles. So basically, what it is like uh, different scenarios where if Asia does this and London does this, then more than likely the New York session is going to do this. Doesn't have anything to do with like prices or fair value gaps. It's more of just like if Asia consolidates and then London sweeps Asia high, and then kind of reverses a little bit, New York will more than likely carry out the reversal back to Asia low and basically well, I mean, yeah, some of them are, but then you can have some that are like uh that one's called like the up profile where here I'm gonna move this. Some of them are one of them's called like the up profile where like if like Asia is like this, and then London continues, and you never come back to Asia low, and you're not coming back to London low, New York will more than likely just continue, right? Or like the one I was saying where it consolidates and then you get the AMD model. Um, then you have the down profile, which is where each uh, each session is creating lower highs and lower lows, and you're taking out each session's low. You may still get some pops to sweep a high, but you're not really sweeping the session high, right? So, you don't ever get back to London high, you don't get to Asia high. This would be New York. So there's probably like, I mean, they probably have more of them than you need to remember, but I think of like 5 or 6 of them are the ones that I look for. So what you're describing would be potentially the down profile, right? So here's our start of the day was here. So down, up, down. London pop up, but doesn't come take the high of Asia and then retreats. And then actually, let me draw that. Maybe it has something like that. And then New York, maybe it pops and just takes this high or this high, but it leaves the actual one quote London high intact. It's just kind of like how they're likely to um, how they're likely to move based on how the other sessions have moved. There's also the tricky one is you have two that are really similar to each other, and it gets a lot of traders tripped up. So you can have the I'm sorry, the Asia consolidation, and then London, it looks like well, one, you have this, like the AMD model, and this is London high, and that becomes your high of the day. But you also have a London Judas, is what they call it. So you have that consolidation, and then London puts in a high, and everyone in New York assumes that this is like the AMD London manipulation, New York continuation. Um, but then New York comes and swipes like maybe this, and this is considered the Judas high, the fake high of the day. Yeah, this thing's freaking running. So confused. I have to study this weekend. Yeah, it's really not confusing. I probably just didn't do a good job of explaining it. So you got London manipulation NY continuation, and then you have the London Judas. That'd be your fake high, low of day. And then you can have the down profile. Uh, you can have the and another one that obviously is the seek and destroy profile, where you're just like breaking highs and lows without really any like just a terrible trading condition, right? Like when you're not really keeping any structure, like you might sweep Asia high and then sweep the low, then go back to the high. You know what I'm saying? Those just like sideways chop days. So they see and destroy profile. Um, those are, I just listed a couple of them, but different people will have like kind of like they'll take ICT stuff and they'll like add on to it, and which is I think a good thing. Like kind of putting their own spin on things. So it's not if you can grasp ICT and AMD and all that, you'll be fine. My marker drawings probably just didn't do it justice. I just know how to tell if it's going to chop. Like if Asia has a big move, usually yeah, yeah. If London or if Asia and London have a lot of movement, yeah. Another thing you could think through that I don't use it. Maybe I should. Is the average true range, and like you could probably get some AI tool to help you like Grok or something to help with it, but you could take like, all right, what is if I look at ES, what is the daily candle? What is the last 30 ranges of the daily candle? Okay, this one's 59 and a half points. This one's whatever, right? Obviously, you can probably get AI to do the heavy lifting, but you could keep that average of like what's the last 30 days, what's the last 90 days, whatever. So then as you're going into your trading session, you can kind of frame your ideas around that. All right. Okay, so if for example, if 59 is my average true range on ES's daily candle and I'm already 47 points on an expansion, I'm only likely on average going to get 12 more points from this, from the session. I know that, that probably two or three traders that I've experienced them like calculating like before their session starts, like how much it's moved overnight and comparing that to the average true range to kind of see like, hey, do I have enough movement still to get to previous day high, or do I have, or like on average, is this too ambitious? Probably wouldn't be a bad idea for me to add to my arsenal. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. Appreciate the sub. Where are you? What country are you from? The DR. Cool. I haven't been to the DR. I actually, I have a long list of countries I want to I want to visit. I've been to a couple parts of Mexico. I had to go to China one time for work, but I actually had fun in China. It I had a lot of uh pre like predetermined, I guess you would call them biases about China. Like it's like the security state and like when I was over there, like even on your own phone, like you can't watch certain videos and uh DR should be the next one on the list. I've actually have talked about that for sure. That's funny you say that. But like in China, like you can't access certain websites. Like if you went over there and tried to watch like any of the news outlets, for example, from the US, like, you know, CNN or Fox News or like any of those, like it's like banned. You can't even like pull it up. Um, so I mean, I had predetermined things about China that I found distasteful. But honestly, after I went there, now I had people from there with me, so I know that that helped. Like I didn't have to deal with like language barriers and um any of that, and I got to China is so advanced. It really is. Like my day job is in manufacturing, and I tell you, man, like them boys and girls over there, man, they do some serious building. It's like it's more I would honestly compare like manufacturing plants there to like army bases here. I'm not in the army. I'm just saying like the structure and like if their shift starts at 6 a.m., they are on toe on the line, all of them, 6 a.m. Like they're about it, and they have extremely good results. Like going over there, I always thought like if you buy things from China, it's lower quality, it's lower whatever. But I'm here to tell you, I've I've done manufacturing for a decade in the United States, and the China operation I watched, I would much rather have their product than what was built here. Yeah, punctuality is something else in Asia. Yeah, it really is. And just like the overall pride they take in their it was automotive is what kind of many like building cars. So like the pride they took in what they were doing um was a lot different than the US too. But yeah, we had a lot of people from China that came to the US for like months at a time to kind of help us when we were getting started. Um, so we would take them around and show them. It was in Texas, so we would show them around, and so once we went there, like they had already been like we had already kind of catered to them and took them around our city and stuff like that and showed them the kind of things to experience. So like once we got there, they were like 100% focused on like taking us all around and doing all the different things. And anyway, I had fun in China. I got tired of noodles, but other than that, I I I'm not really a picky eater, but um I'll be honest, I didn't eat a bunch of stuff that they had over there. Um but they like that was probably like the first I don't want to say the first time, but most of the noodles they make there are like homemade or like made in that restaurant. So it was really good. They have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Uh, one another cool thing about China that I found, yeah, I haven't been to Japan. I would like to go to Japan too. Another really cool thing about China that I saw as a negative before going there that I don't that I understand it more now. So like I always thought like, oh, I'm from the US, like the freedoms we have, which I'm a fan of, right? I'm a supporter of. I always thought the like security state type of idea in China was a negative. Like, I don't want the government watching every step I take. That to me seems like like too much. And I still feel that way. But at the same time, after going there and experiencing it, I understand it. Like, I'll paint you a picture. Like, I'm in Florida. If I went to like Starbucks or like a coffee shop or something and say I went to trade and I had my laptop, if I needed to, go to the bathroom or run out to my car to get something, I wouldn't just leave my laptop sitting on a table in the US, right? If you have a bike and you ride it wherever, you lock your bike up, right? You don't leave your computer out on a random coffee shop table, while you go somewhere else. Like there, like you don't worry about that. Like people, they don't lock bikes up, they don't lock their electric scooters up, they don't um you know you just leave things on tables and walk away, like because there's so much security. Like theft does not exist. Like simply it does not exist. I'm sure it exists in like the financial ways, but like what we deal with in the US, like personal property theft, it doesn't exist there. So like going there and being able to like walk down the street and there's like 50 cameras all over the street lamps, and like every turn you take down an alley, like there's cameras, like everything's so surveillance. Yes, that's kind of annoying, but at the same time, I was there for probably 3 weeks. um I got to see the benefit of that, because prior to going, I only considered that to be a negative. As being an American, I only saw that much surveillance and that much oversight from the government as a total negative. Um, but experiencing it, I understand it now. Like it's really safe. Like really you don't hear you know people getting shot on the side of the street and people getting robbed and people getting things stolen, like all that really doesn't happen there. So that to me was like the biggest thing that I saw as a negative. Not saying I fully agree with it today, because I do enjoy my freedom and I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. I'm just saying I understand it more now that I experienced what it gives them. It does take some things away, right? But it's kind of like what pick your poison kind of in a way. Would you rather have to worry about people stealing stuff and that gives you more freedom? Or would you rather everything be watched and you don't have to worry about violence and theft and those types of things? So that it was actually a really good trip. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was an 18-hour flight. So that was freaking brutal. So I actually flew to I flew kind flew from Texas to California and then California to Shanghai, China. It was like 18 hours or something. So that wasn't that fun, but did you have a middle seat? No, actually, a plane ride wasn't as bad because I wasn't like by myself. Uh, luckily, like I had like it wasn't a lot of it. It was probably like five of us, like people that I worked with that were all around my age, and so the flight wasn't as bad as it definitely could have been if I was like solo and didn't know anybody and all that. But no, but the I'm not going to say who the company was, but company didn't like super splurge on our seats or anything. I mean, we didn't go like first class or anything crazy, but we I also wasn't in the very back of the plane, so I know that the plane conditions could have 100% been worse. But honestly, we just like drank and we made the best of it. What about the jet lag? Yeah, that was I pretty much like slept like a full day when I got back to like kind of turn my clock back to the US time. Because you're like literally flying over because there it's not exactly, I'd have to Google the exact amount, but it's basically like 12, 12, 14 hours something time difference to what I was in Texas. So so I would like call, family and they'd be like, eating breakfast and I'm like about to go to bed, but anyway. Yeah, they're big on like karaoke there. That's like a big thing in their culture. I don't know if that's like a whole Asia thing or just that part of China, but there's a lot of karaoke and um like wasn't like live music like we have in the US, like bands and DJs and stuff. It was more like karaoke style, like, but it was fun. Don't ever underestimate how much fun you can have sitting in a karaoke bar with a bunch of people singing stuff in a language you have no idea what they're saying. A little bit of rejection here now. And honestly, that's like one of my dreams with my trading is to just be able to travel more and I like the public transportation. What do you mean the public transportation? Like the bus? Or do you mean in China? I I think so when I went, we didn't do a whole bunch of like uh traveling. Like I was obviously there for work, so we went from like the hotel to the built like the manufacturing building, um, obviously every day. And then usually at night I rode with people that lived there and worked there as well. Like you can walk anywhere and catch a train and stuff. Yeah. I also thought it was cool. Not, I mean, kind of interesting where like I don't know again if this is like a whole Asia thing or just that part of China, but they had like 2 days a week or 3 days out of the week that they could drive gas powered vehicles. And then the remainder of the week, it was only electric vehicles. And a lot of them would get like scooters and all that. So you would wake up one day and like the city would be filled with cars. And then the next day you're out and it's like everybody's on mopeds and they live in 2050. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was like really interesting. Yeah, they have it's not called Uber or Lyft like we have here, but they have like their own version. Um, Same kind of idea that we used a lot. But trying to go in those apps, one, it's not Uber or Lyft, so it's like an app you've never used before. Once you get there, because you don't even have access to the app until you're in China, right? And like it's not something you just get off the uh, app store here. Um, so you're like you have this app open and everything's in Mandarin, and you're trying to like figure out how to tell it like, hey, I want to go here. And yeah, if I will say if I didn't have people from there that worked at that location and were from there, if I probably would have had much more issues with just like general language barriers, stuff like that. But so this is looking a pretty clean rejection off the. Actually, why did this move? Hmm. Oh, that was my other one. That's my four. You check out their McDonald's menu. Countries have weird menu. I didn't try McDonald's, but in the plant in the manufacturing plant there they had what did they have? I think it was a Taco Bell or some. They had some. It was one of like the popular American fast food restaurants. Um, that the menu was a little different though. I mean, I'm not a big like. I don't eat Taco Bell that much, but from what I remember when I was like younger, it was a little different, but it had like the general stuff. It's very popular over there. So I was kind of surprised by that, like how many people like from there uh chose like the more like American style fast food for lunch. Because they obviously had like more traditional Chinese restaurant options right beside it. It's kind of like a little mini food court kind of thing. Looking good to me. I think this is like the big part of trading that it took me a while to get is like the the trade right now, like it's not worth trying this, even though I had high conviction that this was going up here. Like old me, I would have tried to long into this and then well if it turns short then I'll take a short and like just like getting all over the place instead of just waiting for really what I want. And if it doesn't give what I want, being okay, just like walking away. Looking like we might reject from the 4 hour. Yep. Yep. This 1 hour here on NASDAQ is at overlapping 4 hour. So this looks like definitely the spot that is wanting to seek out. All right, that's the game, right? So our 4 hour opens, where is the wick gonna stop? Right. And that, I mean, that is just kind of an estimate, right? You're not gonna get that right every single time. You really don't even have to. What is something you wish you knew before? Oh gosh. Oh man. How long do you got? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I wish I knew before. Um, probably the thing. So I started trading in 2020. Um, when I first tried, I didn't have like right when I started trading, I didn't take it super serious. Like I was trading, but it I wasn't like dialed in. I want to do this strategy. I'm going to take this exact type of setup. I didn't have all that. I was just kind of getting my feet wet, right? But what really prolonged me getting profitable, like uh, once I realized, okay, I need to be taking the same kind of setup every time. I need to stop venturing and doing all these different things. So then I went hunting for a strategy. And what I would have the tendency to do is I would learn a strategy, I would test it out, maybe on some back testing for a couple days, a week or something. I'll try it out. I'd get a little confidence with it. I would see that it's working pretty well, and then I would start using it. And then I would go maybe a week or two or three, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, however long, and then I would hit a tough period where for a week or for 3 days or for 2 weeks, I didn't have a good win rate. I was experiencing drawdown. I was kind of the negative side of that strategy was showing, right? What I didn't understand then is I would then immediately think that it was a strategy problem and that there was a better one available that would I knew that it wasn't possible to never lose. So I say this kind of sarcastically, but I would go and try to find a better one that wouldn't lose that much or that often. But really what I had to understand is this is nothing, nothing, no job in the world. This is my thinking of it. No job in the world that pays a lot of money is going to be a 100% probability job. That's what makes it a high paying job. So if you think of like a brain surgeon, when a brain surgeon goes into an operation, he or she does not have a 100% win rate or success rate doing brain surgery. There's sometimes the patient doesn't make it, right? Sometimes that it may not be his fault or her fault, maybe things that you can't really control. Maybe one or two times he or she makes a mistake. You're never going to have a 100% uh, success rate with surgery. Same way with if you're designing things or an engineer or a lawyer. None of those higher paying careers you're going to have a 100% um, success rate every day. That's, in my opinion, what makes them hard is that you encounter problems very quick while you're in the middle of doing that skill. and you have to be able to be flexible and move around and kind of dodge the punches of the things being thrown at you without uh without decreasing your skill set. You got to be able to still have that high skill level while you're also dealing with conflict, like news. Yeah. So anyway, so so all that to say, this is a probability game, right? Anyone that tells you, hey, trade like this, you have a 90% win rate. I just don't buy it. I don't, like, period. I don't care who it is. Um, so I had to learn that every strategy is going to have periods of time where it has consecutive losers. That's just part of the probability. Now, obviously, a brain surgeon doesn't have a 60% success rate, right? Theirs are probably more like 95 or 98. Trading, you're never going to get that high. So you have to be even more willing to have back-to-back losers than, those other high-paying jobs do. Um, so instead of trying to change strategy, instead of trying to add more and more things to my current strategy, anytime I went on a 2 or 3 day losing streak or a week losing streak or whatever, or had a bad month overall, um, that just kept me in this cycle of never really truly mastering one thing. And I think that really like prolonged me from getting really good, because the more I watched, the more I watched and kind of studied people that, I mean, I think there's a lot of frauds in this industry, but I feel like you can really tell when someone knows what they're talking about. And the people that I feel like they know what they're talking about that I would listen to, every one of them, they didn't do 15 different things really well. They were good at their one or two things, their one or two setups, and they freaking dialed it in. They had all their data tracked. They know, hey, I might have 6 losses in a row at some point this year, and that's okay. I'm going to still go back the next day and take my normal size, because I know over a month, over 6 months, over a year, I know that I'm profitable because I have the data to back it up. They have that confidence. For us, as anyone that's newer that doesn't have that data behind them, when they encounter those weeks, days, months, whatever, of negative, uh, it makes us more quick to want to change things, more quick to want to alter our current strategy, change to a different strategy, whatever. But if you just like hold true to one thing, I feel like when you find it, it's like it just makes everything make sense in a way that it just like clicks to you. Mine was ICT. It just like the way that I see this thing operating, it just makes sense to me. I would stick to that. If you find one that really resonates with you, stick to that strategy. Anytime you add something to your strategy, be really freaking sure that it's bringing you value, and you're not just adding more things to make what you're doing more confusing. You really want to have as few filters as you can. For me, you know, whereas strategy also needs to match your personality. Yep, I think that's very true too. Yep. So for me, um, I I look at um, where what target on liquidity is the most noticeable that sticks out to me. Um, where what's my high time frame trend, what liquidity target is sticking out in that direction. Okay, bam, there's my target. All right, and then I got to that good at that, and then all I did was add one more layer onto it, which was how the 4 hour or at least a 1 hour candle was forming to if my target's up here for that to get hit, I need the 4 hour candle to be bullish. Okay, if I want a bullish 4 hour candle and it's going to give me that expansion to my target, then I want to see it do some sort of manipulation down when it's starting that 4 hour period, showing me that the market is getting ready to run and it's not just going to sit and chop. I want to see it giving me those signs that it's ready to go. And that's keeping me on side and entering in a market that's moving, giving me timing or help with timing. So the short answer to your question is don't find the strategy that clicks to you. You know, shop around at first, but once one clicks to you and you understand it and it makes the market make sense, stick to that. Um, and start really tracking your data. I need to do some um I was kind of thinking about this. Like, I think that's one thing that's not really uh, taught very well. Like, YouTube teaches strategy before ICT. What strat were you trying? Um, I tried. Well, I think from the very beginning, I just did like support and resistance levels. Like back in like probably 2020, I wouldn't even say I really had a quote strategy. I would say 2021, 2022, just like basic support and resistance um, levels, like seeing, hey, did it reject off this? Did it pop up after hitting this? Maybe I can go long to the next resistance level or um, like that. I've also tried I've also tried different like breakout, like break and retest breakout type of things. But honestly, to me, like I've just, uh, I've never really been that good of a breakout uh, trader, to be honest. Like this, like this exact thing on NQ, to me, I like my chances to ride this back down towards equilibrium of this range than to try to play it up to the extremes. But I think that just goes back to like my personality. So I think those are support and resistance, and then I think the breakout trading is kind of flashy, and I think that kind of sucked me into it. Like, dang, when you catch one of those things, I mean, it feels really good, right? Because that thing's just freaking running off the page, and you're, you know. But it wasn't until I started to learn about liquidity from ICT, and then once I started understanding liquidity and then sweeping liquidity, yeah, to me, once I learned that from him, and no one else really at that time I saw really taught that. I was like, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about, and then that made me kind of be willing to like sit through because like ICT man, he gives like lectures, like college professor style lectures. You know, he calls them a lecture. He doesn't call them strategy video. He calls them whatever lecture. So, you know, you got to have some uh, commitment and patience and everything to really go through his stuff. But I also think you can kind of go down the wormhole with it. Like the knowledge level that he has and what he all his video. If you watch every single ICT video, and he even says this, he said, he says it all the time. Like you can be, you can get rich, plenty rich off of just learning one or two of his models, right? So he himself even says like trying to sit there and learn every single model he has is a little bit is too much, right? So um but I think some people can go too far off the deep end with this stuff, like trying to learn all the different models and all. I think you can give yourself too much information too. Oh, let's see if it wants to make its mind up. If we close here, we would want the next hourly can for shorts to be open. We want the next hourly candle to maybe open just a touch bullish, but not much. We would need to start seeing it start turning over because we're already 2 hours into the 4 hour candle. And Q is looking like it may even IFEG. Well, actually, NQ has the 4 hour. I would really want, I really wouldn't want it to inverse this. But if they both inverse these, I mean, you gotta be flexible. But I mean, to me, that would be signaling this, something like that. But thank you, brother. Yeah, yeah, no problem. Take your take your like take your mag or take your the glasses that you're seeing your trading journey through and zoom out, man. Just trust me, just zoom out. Like if you the people that give up on this, they do it because their results are not matching their expectations fast enough. Period. That's the only reason people quit this. I'm not making the money that I feel I am entitled to from the amount of time or energy or whatever that I'm putting towards it, which is fair. Like, I get it. But at the same time, man, like, look at the people that make the big money. That brain surgeon I was talking about earlier, that dude was in school from 5 years old till he was 30, probably 30, 32, right? Like he was in school 25 freaking years of his life to get out at 32 and make six figures and get up to whatever amount when he's 40. And like he put in a ton of work for that. Like if you just zoom out and take the pressure off yourself, like the least amount of pressure you can have on your trading results, the better. Just let it fall naturally. I know that's easier said than done. I still struggle with that today. So I'm telling that to myself as much as I'm telling it to you. focus on the learning the skill. You learn the skill, all the other things will fall in place. But I would say like 1% of traders hit profitability in the time frame that they were originally expecting to. Hardest part is sitting on your hands. Yes, it is. But the way that the Catherine, I 100% agree that I used to like think of trading like quantity, like I wanted to be involved. I think that that's something that's like put into us at an early age, and I don't think it's just a United States thing. I think it's really all the cultures. So I think that we associate work, hard work, more hours, more work equaling more success, equaling, hey, I'm a hard worker, equaling in the end, in theory, more money from more success, right? I think that's like bred into all of us because how normal people, 99% of the world, how they earn money is that way, right? But with this, you have to think of it less of like, I'm paid to wait, right? I'm paid like right now, I have to think that like I'm waiting, but the money that I'm making this week is really divided by 5 days or really divided by the 7 or 8 sessions I traded this week. Divide that your money of your profit the week for the week divided by how many sessions you traded and think of it like that. Like so when you're waiting, it doesn't feel as much like, oh, I'm not making money and these candles are moving and I could be making money. Think of it as like I am making money right now. I know that's kind of backwards, but the more you think of it like that, the much better your results are going to be. So we've made a lower wick, not much, but we do have, all right, so let's clean up our chart here. So well, I'll leave these on here. Let's flip these to IFEGs. So this H1 inverse, and now it's ran all the way back through it. So I'm going to delete that and say it doesn't matter anymore. So now leave this like right here because it may pull and bounce into these. So I don't want to completely forget about them. This one is what I got my eyes on. So now it's a little more tricky because now we have this 1 hour in our way. I mean, it's not like terrible that it closes a touch above. I mean, obviously, I don't like that as much, but because it's got the 4 hour, I'm not super opposed to that. Didn't get much of a 1 hour wick, but kind of a hard place because what I'm scared of is this. And waiting all the way for this thing to go inverse now is going to be freaking painful. But that's where our 4 hour open is for it to actually flip. Ran almost 1,000 ticks up. See, Asia session yesterday was pretty explosive as well. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it definitely got enough room to keep going from a measurement standpoint. See, just a touch lower what we're looking like. So 15. So what's sticking out to me for if we look at ES right now over here. So if I look on the 1 hour swing low, swing high, this would be my 1 hour dealing range, right? Obviously that's really long. And to wait, I'm just going to draw a random line here. Equilibrium be like right here. Waiting to see if that flips and holds under it. That's pretty painful. And my stop, if I say I got in down here, putting my stop up here would be brutal. So going down to the 30, I don't have any down close candles in here to to have a different dealing range. So my 30-minute is equal to my 1 hour. It'll take ages to get there. Yeah. So the 15 is offering me this down close candle. So I could take it a dealing range from there. And that is actually interesting because it is now, here is that's my 4 hour dealing range. Well, 1 hour. You see how all these equilibriums are right on stacked on each other? So this is the 1 hour from here to here. Equilibrium is there. Or actually that's what I already had marked. Hold on. Yeah. It'd be like that. So 4 hour dealing range, equilibrium's here. So if this does reject, then it would have just wicked on the 4 hour at the 4 hour equilibrium. So that's that's good. I mean that makes sense to the short idea. Over here, right there, and then my 1 hour. Down is in here. So why am I overlapping them? Well, I'm not. I'm kind of overlapping a bearish one to a bullish one. So the higher time frame is bearish. So here's my equilibrium. So if I'm looking to confirm that the it is an uptrend and it's going to stay an uptrend, then I want to see it use equilibrium as support. Okay. Same thing on a dealing range from here to here, or that 15-minute one that I have anchored from here to here, right? If to go short, I need to see the bullish equilibrium, the bullish trends equilibrium start to get pierced through with wicks and then start getting, some candle bodies under it, showing me that it's indeed flipping. That would give me faster information to whether the 1 hour is going to flip IFEG. So I could use that, like, for example, like, um, if I see a 15-minute bullish fair value gap start getting invalidated, and maybe that one inverses, and then I start piercing under the higher time frame equilibrium, then that's bearish. That's showing me that, hey, this is just going to be a wick going past equilibrium a little bit, and it would just give me my bearish 4 hour. Right? If all of these start to hold as support, then I would start to assume, hey, this thing is going to potentially go IFEG, and that opens us to that. This thing's cooking. I mean, this is the first 15-minute close. But we got a bunch of fair value gaps underneath us here. Mm. This 1 hour is very interesting to me, though. What we could potentially look at that I would be down to try is, all right, let's think about it. I'm going to do it on ES because I know y'all can see the full screen. So if we look at the 1 hour chart and we look at this, ignore the equilibrium stuff for now. We just look at this fair value gap and the 4 hour opens right here. For me to hit previous day low way down here, obviously I need bearish trend severely to continue, right? But if we got in a trade up in this area, or maybe even this area, simply writing it down to this fair value gap as like a good TP1, and then just hold runners maybe to here and then maybe a few more to here, where we're at break even and we don't have to like sit through it. That to me is a pretty good trade idea. Why? Well, if we're right about the overall bearish trend all the way down to there, then we're going to get paid for it. But even if we're wrong, and if this is the move, then we're at least getting a scale off here and then just going break even on the rest. The only way we would get screwed on that is if we got this and then it took us at break even and then it delivered. But we at some point I feel like that thing is going to get hit before previous day low delivers. Maybe not. I don't know. That's a very bullish 4 hour candle. Maybe this sweep through here was because we did take this one swing point off the H4 on NQ, the very first one I had marked. Yeah, this thing is pushing. It sure is. It's basically taking all the loss back from Asia, right? Because this was essentially our Asia move we traded. So, I mean, let's look at the 30-minute because we're getting about 12 minutes from the 30 closing. Because if we assume at this point, zooming in here, if we assume that the trend's going to continue at least to the next 4 hour high or something, I mean, we could get a good bit of profit just go into here or here, not even the previous day high. I mean, we could hold a few there, but if this is going to continue, we got 42 minutes left on this candle. We would assume that this would be the hourly low. Obviously, we don't know that, but I'm just saying. So this is the H1 low question mark. And now if we go down to the 30, we got this that it's fighting right now. Let's mark that out. And then that pretty much has clear runway to this. And that would be its next thing. And then if we continue to push for this hourly candle and we assume that this was the manipulation wick, we would be getting a second 1 hour fair value gap here, which isn't abnormal to have them, stacked like that. So let's see what we look like at this 10-minute close right here. And if we go IFEG here, then I think it would be a decent trade. We just go under the H1 low and take the trade in the assumption that this is the low of the hourly, and if the hourly flips back bearish, takes out the low and makes a new low, then we're wrong. We could just target, I mean, that's a 1.84. You go 1-to-1 right there. I probably wouldn't take as much. The reason I don't like this trade is just because of how many fair value gaps we have untapped underneath us. That's a little scary to have at our back. So I would probably calm my risk down, but I will say that if we're right, this thing, I mean, you could get a pretty high RR trade out of it if it really ran. Because remember, at the start of Asia, we were right here. So if we have a, you know, London, Asia sell off London manipulation and then continuation, even if it's a slow grind because it's a bank holiday in the US, you could definitely max. It's safer to not take a trade. Yeah, absolutely. That may be the play. I like the way you think, Catherine. That's like one of the people I've had people ask me like, what made you decide to start streaming your trading? And that was one of my main reasons of doing it was just to uh keep myself accountable of what I'm taking. Because nobody wants to I mean, I would hate to be the person that uh you know has videos and streams and all this stuff of saying or doing certain things as part of their model and then going completely against the grain of it to just to take a trade. This thing closes. We'll make our decision after this candle. Four minutes. Hey Catherine, how much did you take that trade in Asia? Now we're getting some rejection. Yeah. Good. I'm glad you called it. And here's our candle. We inversed on both. All right, Catherine. Have a good night. Mm. Honestly, I'm thinking about taking something like that. Scale out here. So my funded account's already in profit a good bit from my Asia session trade. So before that money is locked in and works against my trailing drawdown end of day, I don't mind doing something a little risky. I don't know. Maybe I should just take it. Hmm. Not really giving me the setup I want. All right. I think I'm about to call it. Took a good trade in Asia. I'm gonna call it for the night. All right. Catch y'all.